As you remember, last time we learned how to turn, and we saw how to do 60-degree turns and 90-degree turns and how to measure them, and 130-degree turns and 180-degree turns. And then we sort of got confused that we can continue turning. So what does this turn look like? And what does it's a big turn. You can see I'm turning a lot. This turn look like? So I have to figure out what these turns are and how do I measure them using a protractor. So this is a protractor. So I'm using this protractor and I want to figure out how to do these measurements. So we'll start out simple and then we'll build complexity. So let's pull out a protractor. So here's a protractor that we can pull out, and let's start to measure it. So let's put the protractor. So now note, I'm going to start turning. So let me say I'm going to start. So now I'm going to start turning from here, and I'm going to turn all the way up till here. So this is my start of the turn. This is my end of the turn. So now let's start to, what we do is let's place the D over here, and let's start to get the zero of the D pointing the protractor. It's also called the D because of its shape. And we can move it slightly over here, just slight rotation maybe. Okay, this is approximately right. I'm not going to worry too much about it. So maybe let's try if I can see if I can move it slightly. Okay, this looks a bit better. Okay, so now you can see that my zero is aligned with the start of the turn. So please note this is the zero and this is aligned with the start of the turn, right? So now let's start counting. So I'm going to get to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And then you can see I go forward by 2. So this angle is going to be 82 degrees. Okay. So now let's try to measure the lower one. So let's pull out. So let's use the same protractor. I think we can use the same protractor. Maybe we'll pull out another protractor, put it here, and let's try to rotate it, and let's try to see what we can measure. So here we go. And now you can see again that our zero, so this is the zero, you can see this is zero. So the zero is aligned with the start. So this is the start and this is the end of the turn. And now if I start counting from here, I'll get 10, 20, 30, all the way up to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. So this turn would be 100 degrees. Okay, so this is how we can measure turns. So let's try another one and let's see whether we can measure these angles. So let's try to measure these angles. This is a bit harder. So let's try how can we measure these angles. So let's pull this out. Let's make this a bit bigger. And now let's see what we can do with it. So I'm going to place this right over here. Maybe rotate it just a bit slightly. Here's my rotation. Okay, so hopefully I have it approximately correctly aligned here. Okay, so now I have it aligned and now I can start counting. Now please note that the start of my turn is right over here. So this is the start of my turn. So I started here and I'm going to end right over here. And it's really arbitrary. You can pick either one as a starting or an ending place. It doesn't matter. So it's the same way. If you're walking from your home to your school, it's the same distance if you walk from your school to your home. I mean, so long as the roads are, the traffic. If you're walking straight. So for example, if you're walking, so let's say you're walking from so school to home is some distance. So as you walk in this direction, there's some distance, which will be the same distance as you walk backwards. So it's the same idea with turns. So whether you pick whichever end you pick as the start or the end, it doesn't matter. So let's start counting now. So when we start counting, please note now the 0 is going to point in the starting direction. So now it's slightly different. So now you have to count from the inside, or you can count backwards. Either way, it doesn't matter. So this will now be a 0, and now this will be a 10. As you can see, this does say 10, but even if your protractor does not say 10, you can read a 10 backwards. So now as you go back, so I'm going to start counting 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, and then I'm going to get to 142 probably. So this angle is going to be 142 degrees, and as you can see right over here, it's a bit bigger than 140 degrees, which is exactly 142. So now if you have, so let's look at this angle. Then the next one looks a bit more complex. So let's pull out our protractor, place it on the intersection point. We always place it on the point where you are rotating from. Rotate it, put the 0 somewhere, so it doesn't matter. So here is the 0. So now since the 0 points in this direction, so I'm going to consider this to be the starting place and this direction to be the ending place. Okay, so this is the end, this is the start. Let's start counting. As you count from here, you can see that you're going to get to 80, and then you get to 84. So this angle is going to be 84 degrees. Okay, so now let's look at the problem that we encountered, that how can we measure an angle which was much bigger than the thing that we were trying to measure. So let's draw this angle. So let's draw this. So now we can draw this. Maybe I'll draw it with a thinner line. So here's one line, here's another line, and what we want to do is we want to measure actually. So this is the starting. So this will be our starting point, and we actually want to measure this angle. Okay, so this is what we're turning. We are turning by a lot. There were two angles that we could have measured. We could have measured this angle, but we don't want to measure this angle. We want to measure this angle. So, and this is going to be the ending place. Okay, now the problem is when we pull out our protractor and we try to measure this angle, so what we find is that we can't really put the protractor and measure this angle, because when I try to put this protractor and try to measure this angle, you can see I run out at 180 and I can't do anything else. So I'm kind of stuck as I try to measure this angle, because remember I was interested in the yellow line, so I'm interested in going in this direction, right? But if I go in this direction, I clearly can't go beyond 180. So that's kind of a pain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a light small trick, and I'm not going to measure this angle. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to measure the green angle. Now you may say, why are you measuring the green angle? But hang on, give me a second, and we'll measure the green angle. So if you measure the green angle, and we said that this side is the same as this side, so let's measure this. You start out from, so this point is going to be 0 for me, and as I go this way, I'm going to get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and maybe something like, I'm just going to say this is like 84 degrees. It's between 83 and 84 degrees. I'm just going to say 84 degrees. Now please remember that I know that the whole turn is 360 degrees, right? So now if I have, so I'm going to take out, this is 84 degrees. So what that means is that this portion right over here is going to be 360 minus 84. So I should probably, so 360 minus 84, let me write it in a slightly. So this is going to be 360 minus 84 degrees, which is going to be equal to 200 and I think 76 degrees. Okay, so we have just figured out that the yellow angle is 276 degrees. So we actually did not measure the yellow angle directly, we measured the green angle, and then we used that to measure the yellow angle because we subtracted it from 360 to get the right angle.